Very unfortunately, I have to paper pop something in front of me that I never wanted to have to read. There are some folks out there who we love. There's some folks out there that we don't love quite as much. Hatred has no place on this show, of course, but there are some folks that you think are sort of in it. They're in the foxhole with you when it comes to college football fandom, when it comes to the way we view this sport, right? You and I, to a 99th percentile, usually agree on the core things. We may not agree on the playoff. We may not agree on NIL. But those are ornaments. The tree, we all have the same tree. Or at least I thought we did. So I'm perusing Twitter the other day. Unfortunately, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday, so we didn't have another show live coming up for a couple of days. But our buddy over there at Barstool, not Brandon Walker, notice I said buddy, our buddy Captain Cons, I've never spoken ill of him. I have never seen reason to take umbrage with him on this show because, 9 times out of 10, the guy's pretty much singing from the same songbook that we do, which makes it all the more disappointing that I hold this piece of paper in my hand, which features an article written by him. And you want to know what the genesis of this is? The genesis is he's talking about the worst fans in college football. You know where this is going, or at least I think you do. You've heard what he said a million times. It's just that you've normally heard it from casuals. I think it's very important to hit the pause button here, and it's very important to remember the words of Meemaw. Smart people can say casual things. Casual people rarely say smart things. And our buddy, Captain Cons, a casual he is not, but casuality absolutely came out of his mouth. Allow me to start with this. The worst fan base is anyone who roots hard for a college they have zero connection to in any substantial way. This is that old, if you didn't go there, you shouldn't be rooting quite as hard as alumni did because they have a special connection. Of that, I don't disagree. That's an obvious point. If you went to the University of Tennessee, and I grew up over in East Memphis, and I've never even been to Knoxville, but I just buy the T-shirts at my favorite apparel store, yes, you've got a different connection to the University of Tennessee than I do. However, he couldn't stop there, could he? Couldn't stop there. He used words like illegitimate. Ugh, gross. Like, how often do we ever even say that word on this show, much less when it's attributed to fans? So I was just thinking to myself, let's you know what we need to do? We probably need to call up our buddy the alien. And our buddy the alien comes down here whenever we need him. He is usually an arbiter on situations like these. And he comes down and we say, alien, welcome back. And we say to him, buddy, we got a problem. We have things called colleges, institutions of higher learning, and some of us go and some of us don't. And we got our buddy Captain Cons over here saying that that college football team up there at Louisville, if you didn't go to the University of, you really aren't that legitimate a Louisville fan. And the alien then turns on a Louisville game. Or here's an even better one. If we're going for pure spectacle here, let's take our buddy the alien and say, flip it over to CBS. He flips it over to CBS. And it's Death Valley, it's LSU, it's Saturday night. And those eyes, and I don't know if you've ever seen an alien, but they're already pretty big, those eyes get even bigger. And it's 101,000, and it's a decibel level that you could not imagine, frankly, unless you've witnessed it. And I've been field level there multiple times. And it's, aside from Mississippi State for different reasons, it's the closest I've ever come to sort of looking around and asking, anyone got earplugs? Oh, it made me feel so soft. But I also wanted to hear the next day. So our buddy the alien, he watches an LSU game, Saturday night, Death Valley. And he's amazed. And you're amazed. And I'm amazed. And if he's honest with himself, the author of this piece is amazed. It's not 100,001 business majors in there, man. So you either admire the spectacle of the sport or you don't. You either view that as legitimate or you don't. They don't build those cathedrals merely for alumni. Now, those alumni may have some special seating privileges that the rest of us don't have, but you got to forgive my buddy Leroy in Arcadia Parish down there if he didn't want to rack up $65K in student loan debt and instead went into the family business, and half the folks who graduated from there may call him boss one day. His legitimacy is confirmed as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the powers that be at LSU are concerned. He didn't stop there. Allow me to continue. This kind of gets me more fired up the more I talk about it. People with legit rooting interests aren't the ones who get mad at me for this. The ones chirping back at me are being sensitive because they know their fandom is based on some absurd reasoning. Well, here's all the reasoning you need to root for Pate State. This is America. I can do whatever the blank I want to do. But if you want to get a little deeper than that, if you want to be a little more tactful about it, allow me to ask, what is legitimate rooting interest? Now, according to the criteria not listed but suggested in this piece, it is you either went to the school or you got immediate family that went to the school, and that's the long and short of it. Maybe you worked there. I don't know. Obviously, I'm a little bit looser on my criteria than he. But if that's legitimate rooting interest, then I assume everything else is illegitimate rooting interest. See previous statement for what I think about that. Here's my take on this. I've heard this argument. It's as old as time. I went to Harris County High School in Harris County, Georgia. I did not go to the University of Georgia. And I used to hear people all the time who were, a lot of them were trust fund kids. Some of them were just geniuses, and they had already been offered scholarships by their senior year at Harris County. But some of them knew they were going to Georgia. Some of them knew they weren't going to Georgia. And the ones who knew they were going to Georgia or had Georgia blood in their family, they would speak in a condescending manner sometimes to the folks who were going to go to Dalton State or even Georgia State or Albany State or Columbus State. And I remember even back then thinking, this is kind of stupid, because they weren't talking about allegiance to the school. No one's going and hanging out on the quad on Tuesday afternoons saying, look at me, man, I'm Texas through and through. No one's hanging out in the Student Rec Center at Kentucky. But they are going to Kentucky's football stadium on Saturday. They are wearing the blue. They are cheering for the Wildcats. And they do view themselves the same way you view yourself in that particular moment. The reason that's legitimate, the reason their legitimacy as a fan checks out every bit as much as someone who double majored in a track I don't even know about up there, is unlike the university experience, unlike the academic experience, the college football team transcends just being an appendage to the university. The college football team is more an idea than just a thing that exists there on campus. And it's an idea that's reflective of a geographical culture, of a region of people who may disagree on some things here and there, but largely they share some commonality. And if you're in the LA that stands for Louisiana, the things you share may be starkly different than the LA out there in Los Angeles, California, but that's the beauty of it. It's not a country of 330 some odd million robots. They're different places, different cultures, and that football program that exists in Baton Rouge or Tuscaloosa or Columbus or Ann Arbor or Lincoln, it's kind of a representation of that, and people gravitate towards it. Not because they went there, but because it represents something a whole lot more than just a stadium that happens to be parked on campus there. He continues, P.S. I honestly, you want to hear condescending, now listen to this. P.S. I honestly don't care who you root for, especially you, Chief. Just know that folks look at you a little sideways. P.P.S. People who defend themselves as ardently as Chief know full well how ridiculous they sound, but they can't admit that out loud. Let me just say this to all of you who have been labeled illegitimate, all of you who have been cast away, all of you who are, shall we say, academically downtrodden. Chief, pretty much anyone out there that's been labeled by our buddy here, you're welcome into our fold on this show. You're welcome at Pate State. And I also want to say this. I will speak for the fundraising branches of every major university in America. They will take your dollars. They will take your season ticket applications. They will take your merchandising purchases every bit as quick as they'll take someone whose kid and grandkid and great-grandkid is going to go to the University of Minnesota. I don't even have to call them up to make sure I can confirm that for them. So I saw this the other day, and I knew it had to be addressed. Again, to wrap it up in classical fashion with the same Meemaw quote I opened it with. Smart people say casual things sometimes. Casual people rarely say smart things. This is a smart person, good person, probably digitally shake his hand tomorrow morning and move on about our business, but he deserved to be called out here because this is gross negligence. This is, it reeks of management. I'm shocked that management did not pen something like that. Maybe that's the angle. Maybe Barstool management is the angle over there. And if it is, He's well on his way. It's not the worst strategy in the world. First thing you want to do is look down your nose at the common man. It's like a classic fast track sweater vest path to upper management. It works. It works.